So my caps lock is off today. No mistakes as of now. Great job. Okay. Hi everyone, this is Sneha from Web3 Compass, and we are here for day 3 of 30 days of building with Solidity. So for everyone who has just stumbled upon this video randomly because of a YouTube recommendation or a friend saying that, wow, she just teaches Solidity in a really fun way, whatever be the reason, to know more about the campaign, you should head over to the first video. That is where I talk about it in detail. For those who have just been with me in the journey for the past 2 days, you already know what I'm talking about. So we'll just directly dive in. So this is day 3, and the smart contract that we're going to write today is PollStation.sol. The concepts that we'll talk about is arrays, mappings, and simple voting logic. We did improve the example application section because the community asked for it. So now we have a much more detailed explanation. So here we say that let's build a simple polling station. Users will be able to vote for their favorite candidates. You will use lists to store candidate details. You will also create a system which is like mappings to remember who voted for which candidate. Very important. Think of it as a digital voting booth, and this teaches you how to manage data in a very structured way. Okay, so we'll just directly go to the Remix IDE, but before that, for the rest of the days that we have already done with, here are the resources unlocked section where you can find the YouTube video, the solution guide. So whatever it is that you prefer, be it the video, be it the text, you can just go for it. But since you're here, you definitely prefer the YouTube video. So yeah, okay. Let's head over to Remix, and again we'll create a file. It's called PollStation.sol. Yay. Okay, so what is the first line that we write? It's the license line. Again, I try to write it on my own because yeah, mistakes every time. So my caps lock is off today. No mistakes as of now. Great job. Okay. So yeah, I think these are pretty fine, and for those who have watched me for the past 2 days, you know that we can do this. Okay, now, okay, just tell me this, right? When you heard the application description, you know that we're talking about voting here, and we would want candidate names, and there are a lot of features that you're going to talk about, right? But how is it going to be different from what we have already done? As of now, we were writing some fun little smart contracts, counting clicks, storing names and bios, but then today we're going to work on a voting system. Okay, we're going to talk about arrays, mappings, and everything, but let's just dive right in on what it is that or how is it that we are going to structure the entire thing. Okay, so before anyone can vote, we need to give them the list of people that they can vote for. Very, very basic logic. Okay, now the first problem would be how do we store the name of all candidates, right? So I could just say, or with whatever I've taught you the previous day, you would say, Sneha, that's pretty simple, right? You could just say string candidate 1 equals to Sneha, and string candidate 2 equals to blah blah, whatever. But okay, fine, if you have 2 candidates, you can do that. What if you have 20 candidates? You cannot do that. Like, you cannot just individually go about declaring all of this, right? So we know that we just need something like a list, maybe, where you could just say, that, hey, just let's keep adding all the names in a list. Okay, so in Solidity, we're talking about arrays, which is like a more simpler way to store a list of values. It is so a way to do that is we say, okay, string public. Now again, public because we want everyone to be able to access the variables that we are creating, and we say, okay, we have a string array called candidate names that will store the list of the candidates that are going to participate. So string tells that, hey, I want to store a list of strings. Public makes the list visible to anyone who wants to read it, and for candidate names, we're just names that we've given to the variable. Okay, so what next? What exactly is an array for anybody who's new to the programming section and doesn't know array at all? So if I have to explain that in a layman term, we'll just say that it's a row of boxes. Each of it will hold one item. Okay. So in our case, if we are storing something like Sneha, Setu, Siddharth, the first item would be at position 0, the other would be at position 1, and so on. Okay. And these are especially useful when you don't know ahead of time like how many items you will need to store. So they grow as needed. Again, if you're aware of what is going to be the fixed size of it, you can have a fixed size array where you can just put in the size of it. Otherwise, you can just declare it as dynamic. So here, because we don't know how many candidate names are going to be, we're just keeping it dynamic. We're not specifying a list here. The length here. Okay. Now, okay. So now that we've, had, now that we have an array, we know that, okay, every time someone adds a new candidate, we just push their name into the array. It goes straight to whatever is the next available slot. If 3 names are already there, the 4th one would go to index 3, like it's starting from 0. The position starts from 0, so that would be the 3rd item. I hope that's clear. And then, yeah, that's it. Like, you just have to push in the array, okay? You don't have to think a lot. It's like writing a normal list, 1, 2, 3, and whatever comes in mind, you just write and go forward with the next position, okay? Now, the next thing would be, how do we track the votes? Now that we've gotten a list of candidates that we're talking about, how many votes has a candidate received? Okay. Again, the first thought that would come to my mind is like, oh, let's just declare an integer that says, oh, votes for Sneha. Votes for Sneha, uint 256, votes for Setu. Oh my god, my typing has just gone horrible today. Yeah, and then just go about. But then, hey, wait. We cannot have like 20 candidates and just declare integer values for all of it, right? So what we say that, you are not going to hard code any of it in advance. So we will use a concept called mapping, okay? So mapping is like a dictionary or a lookup table. So you give it a key and you get back a value, okay? So this is how we're going to declare one. It says, okay, mapping. Now, since we have to map the candidate's name to the number of votes that they have got, we will say, as AI suggests, that string. So we'll just specify the data type of whatever kind of value it is that we're talking about, and then give this arrow symbol and say, oh, we need the number of votes, which would be uint 256, and then just say, yeah, vote count. Now you can have public here if you want everyone to access it. Pretty simple. Okay, so now we have the list of candidates. We have the mapping for each candidate, that the number of votes that they have, and what next, right? But before we talk about that, if anybody who has not understood what mapping is, layman terms again, it's like a vending machine. You press a button, the key, and you will get a value. Okay, so if you look at a vending machine, it says, oh, press 1 for Coke, press 2 for green tea. So you just press it and you will get that particular thing. And so if somebody votes for like me, okay, we look her up in the mapping and then increment the count by 1. Okay, so if no one has voted for a name yet, the mapping will return 0 by default. Again, there are some default values that are associated, and here it's 0. Okay, so Solidity will always give you a default value for any key that has been set yet. Okay, and mappings are super useful when you want to track or assign values based on input, like how many times something has happened or which address owns it. You just have to remember that there's a particular syntax which says mapping, and then whatever it is that you want to map, you just specify the data type of it. Okay, so in this case it was string and uint 256. Now what? We have the candidate's name. We have figured out how we're going to store the vote for it. Okay, but we have to first add candidates, right? So we'll just quickly write a function add candidates. Always try to name the functions or variables in such a manner that it is, if a third person is looking at your code, they are able to understand what this particular function or variable is all about. Now, because it's going to be string data type, again, memory has to be there. In my day 2 video, I have specified that every time we're talking about string data types, it would have memory, but like, yeah, if you're using it in functions, then it can just act as a temporary storage. So you have to specify it. And here we are passing it as a parameter. So memory is important because we want to, gas optimize. Again, we have given the value candidate names. So as per good naming convention, I would just add an underscore and not use my brain to think of a new variable, and we'll say public. The function has to be accessible to all. Now what is it that we're going to do, right? We have a array. We need to push the candidate's name as AI suggests. Candidate names dot push. Oh, we'll remove this part of the code. Sorry. Yeah. So candidate names dot push candidate names, and vote count for every candidate name would be initialized to 0. Great. So now every time we give a input, we can just add the candidate name. Let's see if this compiles well. Okay, all good, all green. We love green. Oh, okay. My last contract that was deployed is still here, but anyway, so we will deploy it here, and we'll say, okay, add candidate. So I'll just add Sneha, love my name, and then I will say Setu. Okay, and right now we're saying candidate names. So maybe let's see if I can put value 0. Now, if you call it, it says Sneha. Why? Because Sneha was the first entry that we did, and the position indexing starts at 0. So if you change this to 1 and you call it, you will get Setu. Now, for vote count, if I say, what is the vote count for Sneha? It says 0. Because we have not done any such operations. What is the vote count for Setu? It's still 0, right? So yeah, let's just remove it and focus on what's going to be next. Now that we've added the candidates, what do you do next? Okay, let's just go vote. So function vote. Okay, now here we're talking about voting. So every candidate names, we'll vote for a particular candidate, so the data that we'll provide here would be the candidate's name. So again, string memory candidate names, sorry, And again, because we are saying vote. Oh wait, AI is wrong here. AI has gone gaga. We are not asking for any return value here. So we are saying, okay, public, and we want to vote. How do we vote? Very simple. We're not going to complicate any of it. We'll just say vote count for each candidate name. Sorry, that would be the parameter that you've passed. Oops. Kind of mistakes that I do. Vote count candidate name plus. Okay, that's it. So this is how your vote function is going to look like. I just pass my name and I say, hey, this is the person I want to vote for. So you can just fetch the name. This is how you fetch the value for any particular entry in an array, if that's the right word. So if you want to fetch a particular candidate's name, we say, oh, vote count for Sneha was 0, so just add a +1 because I want to vote for her. Okay, now I think this should work fine. Compiling is done. Let's try to deploy it. Okay, went through again. So I just add candidate Sneha Setu. Okay, now candidate names was, yeah, I've already shown you this, but I want to vote. Okay, so I say, okay, the person I want to vote for is, there's no Neha, Sneha. Okay, transact. Now vote count again. I want to get my vote count. So now earlier it would have been 0. Now it's 1. So every time somebody gives a value for vote as the string name, +1 would be added. Very simple implementation. Now instead of just calling it like this, I would say that, you know what, let's just write a function to get candidates names as well as get votes. Okay, so I'll say function get candidate names. We do not have to pass any parameter here. Public view returns. Now what is it that we are expecting? We're expecting string values here. So we say string, but it's an array, right? That's how we have declared it. So we have to be very particular what we write here. And then we say, okay, string memory. Okay, and just return what? Return candidate. Oh, okay, return candidate names. Cool. We're not passing anything, so it will just take the state variable here. And I also want to get votes, like instead of just individually saying, hey, can I get the number of votes for Sneha, I want to say you just pass on the name and you get a total vote count for it. So we say get vote and string memory candidate names. Okay, again we want it to be a return function, public view returns. Now what? I want the number of it, right? The number of votes that she has got or any candidate has got. So I say, oh, it has to be just the number. It's fine, right? And then just say return vote count candidate names. Okay. Now let's see what happens. Let's just compile it and try to deploy it. Now you'll be able to see that, okay, get candidates right now, it's an empty string. We've seen this demo already, so you can just quickly move forward while I just show you the new functions. So now when you say get candidates, you can see it together, Setu and Sneha. That is a new function that we have implemented. And then I want to vote for Sneha, always Sneha, and I'll do 2 transactions. Okay, so get vote. get vote for who? Okay, one is, you can just say Sneha, you can see 2, and you say vote count is 2, right? So you're doing get vote, and vote count is just you getting it twice. So instead, if we just remove this, right, and we don't want everyone to see it, so we'll just redeploy it and it will disappear. Just give me a minute and you will see that, oh, okay, I'll be able to get candidate, get vote, and that public vote count is just disappeared. Okay, so what did we do? Pretty simple. Add candidates, we're talking about it. The function takes in the string, name of the new candidate. It adds that name to the candidate array using .push. This is something that you need to remember. .push is what we're talking about here in order to push a new value to the array. And then we say, okay, I want to initialize the vote count for every candidate as 0. So let's just go. Now, you casted a vote. Fine, just add a +1 to it. Okay, very easy. Version is wide open. Anyone can vote. We're not putting any restrictions on who can cast a vote and not, and how many votes can you cast. That is something else. And then you want to see a full list of candidates instead of just indexing it and say, hey, which is a candidate at number 0, number 1, number 2. So you just quickly write a function called get candidate names, just get a return value for the required data type and just return the candidate names. Again, don't forget how important view function is. You need to tell the compiler that, bro, I just want to get a value. I'm not changing anything, I promise. Okay, and then checking how many votes someone has, you can just take it. Okay, like just get a return value. So what did we do here? A dynamic list of candidates using an array, a flexible vote counter that is using mapping. Functions that we've used: add candidates, vote, get candidate names, get vote. Now you don't have to implement all of it. You can just have a much simpler version. We're just trying to write these functions so that we are able to revise the previous concepts that we have learned. But in this section, we've talked about what arrays are, how to declare them, when to use them, what mappings are, how they work, why are they useful, how should you declare it, like look into the syntax, how to store and connect values. Now, what comes next? The contract is wide open. Try to add restrictions. Anyone can add candidates, so you can add admin permissions like, oh, okay, if I am the owner, only I can add candidates, or maybe one person can just vote only once. So you can do a lot. We would love to see you play around with the contract, write different versions of it. But yeah, this is all for day 3, and I will see you for day 4. Don't forget to raise that PR, and yeah, that's it. Okay guys, bye.